I don't know if I can follow Glenn or Steve. I hope I can live up to the accolades. Before I begin, I saw Kevin here, and I know Michael's here, and Wendy's here somewhere. How many PPC candidates do we have here? Can you please stand up? Where's Wendy? Oh, hi, Wendy. So, thank you for your support. Thank you for coming. Yes. I would initially like to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. And I especially want to thank you skeptics for being open-minded and willing to participate in our event. If it weren't for each and every one of you being here tonight, our message would be like a tree falling in the woods. June 2021, the only support for the PPC in Perth-Wellington that I was aware of was myself and one other person. I asked her to be here tonight, but she wouldn't stay. She's a very shy person. Her name's Laura Park. My wife, Marilyn, absolutely not on board. To grow from such humble beginnings to being amongst the top 25 candidates for the PPC in all of Canada after the September 21 election is truly humbling. Frankly, without a team of dedicated, hardworking, unified, and loyal helpers, it would have been impossible. It would not have happened. I find it fascinating what such a team can accomplish, especially when we can capitalize on our diverse skills, perspectives, skills and perspectives, sorry. Just look around this evening. Did not happen without them. Thank you, team. Eli Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor who went on to become a writer, a professor, political activist, Nobel laureate, once penned, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference." I want that quote on all my promotional material moving forward. I find the words poignant and penetrate to my core. The real question here is, what is indifference? In my experience as a politician, it always involves an excuse. I don't have time. I won't make a difference, so why bother? Oh, I forgot. I don't care. My parents voted that way. It's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. Even scarier is when fear is involved. I don't want to embarrass myself. What will my neighbors think? I like your cause, but I don't want to lose my status, whether it be job, lifestyle, credibility, or a myriad of other fears. By far the worst indifference we can suffer is the day after the election when someone says, "Oh yeah, I was going to vote for you, but I got busy and forgot." I really believe indifference is devastating. I also believe the reason Eli Wiesel suffered through the Holocaust is because of indifference. It was indifference that encouraged a tyrant such as Adolf Hitler to take control of Germany in the first place. It was a continuation of that indifference that led to the Second World War and ultimately the total annihilation of Germany. I believe it was fear and indifference that has led to the establishment of numerous communist, socialist, totalitarian, and authoritarian governments throughout history, leaving untold millions dead, destitute, and impoverished in their wake. Being in politics, one comes to believe that it's really easy to identify the enemy. It's really easy to criticize them. It's much harder to provide better alternatives, especially if one doesn't want to be plagiarized. The reality is, the Liberals are not our enemy. Justin Trudeau is not our enemy. The Conservatives are not our enemy. Pierre Poilievre is not our enemy. The NDP is not our enemy. Jagmeet Singh is not our enemy, nor the Bloc Québécois or the Green parties. Mr. Weasel hit the nail on the head. Indifference is our one and true enemy. Why are people so indifferent? What will motivate people to shake off their indifference? What will motivate the population to become involved and engaged in contributing to their future? The answers to those questions are what I and every politician in this room need to be seeking. Our natural tendency, when confronted with overwhelming adversity, is to retreat into our comfort zone, whether it be our work, our homes, or some other area of safety and comfort. Remember when we were kids and we would hide under our covers, under our blankets when we were scared? I believe indifference is how that same protective instinct manifests itself. Unfortunately, that reaction is exactly the reaction the tyrants depend on to gain and maintain power. To quote Mr. Weasel once again, we must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. There are times in history when the tormented have stood up. I would like to draw a quick parallel between first century Rome and the Canadian Truckers' Convoy of 2022. First century Rome was being faced with a radical new religion that was starting to appear. The Roman contemporaries considered it a cult. This religion promoted radical ideas such as love your neighbor as yourself. If your enemy takes your coat, give him your shirt too. If your enemy strikes you on the cheek, offer your other cheek. Because this behavior was so unpredictable, it completely confounded the Roman authorities. So much so that within a couple generations, the entire political system was turned inside out. We actually enjoy the fruits of those ideas today. Given the historical success of those ideas, and the fact that us Canadians are looking down the barrel of an authoritarian government, it would make complete sense that a truckers' convoy would employ the exact same tactics of resistance. Love your neighbor as yourself. The outpouring of generosity that Glenn just described from the truckers and supporters was overwhelming. Free food on demand, warm shelter for the homeless, employment for the destitute. And to me, the most symbolic was the double garbage stations. Beside every city garbage can was a black garbage bag that was expected to be filled in lieu of costing city resources. When your enemy strikes you on the cheek, offer the other cheek. Look at the $10 million raised with GoFundMe. How that money was seized and then Give, Send, Go in turn replaced the seized 10 with another $10 million or so, even faster. The authoritarian response, one of which was to identify and seize bank accounts of supporters, had exactly the same response as the authoritarian responses in ancient Rome. Historically, it drove the participants underground, gave them a chance to breathe, spread their message, and ultimately come back stronger, smarter, more prepared, and in greater numbers than they were originally. That's exactly what we're experiencing in this country right now. The truckers' convoy protests of January, February last year is by no means over. We've been driven underground for a while. We've learned a lot of lessons, which will be applied moving forward, and we will be back smarter, stronger, more prepared, and in greater number to take on the authoritarians. The truckers did win a battle on our behalf, but we are under attack on all fronts, and the war is by no means over. To quote Mr. Churchill, and I paraphrase, "This is not the beginning of the end, but possibly the end of the beginning," end quote. We need to stay diligent. So what can we do? We all have to answer that question individually. For me, I risked divorce. I stepped out not knowing if I was stepping over a cliff, into quicksand, or on firm ground. It was a complete act of faith. I'm not asking you to step out as radically as I did, but start doing something positive that moves your life in a positive direction against authoritarianism. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peterson, primarily because he gives credibility to what I've been saying my entire life. Fill your mind with ideas and habits that will move your life forward. There is amazing literature at our fingertips. Read a classic: Shakespeare, Dickens, Bronte, Tolstoy, Solzhenitsyn, the Greek philosophers. I would like to point out, though, that by far the most beneficial writings are the ones that have been systematically discredited over the last 50 plus years. Those are the writings of the Holy Bible. Genesis is absolutely fascinating. Proverbs is packed full of wisdom. The New Testament I briefly touched on earlier. Next would be to start building and applying habits that will make your own life better without harming or interfering with your neighbor's life. Love your neighbor as yourself. And to quote Dr. Peterson, get your room in order. Don't be afraid to listen to the revelatory modern thinkers, such as Jordan Peterson, or any other communicator who's primarily motivated towards the well-being of the individual, family, and ultimately our society. In other words, educate yourself. Finally, start reaching out. Start talking to your friends. Start practicing communicating ideas. Continue setting the example. If each and every one of you here tonight were able to just bring one individual to our next function, we would not be able to host that function in this building, as we would be too small. It wouldn't be big enough. We need to learn to respond to fear and hatred with love and understanding. We need to respond to lies and propaganda with love and firm resistance. We need to learn when and how to say no. We need to be willing to draw a line in the proverbial sand and refuse to cross it, regardless of the consequences. We need to do our best to live courageously, forthrightly, moving forward. Most importantly, we need to build our own community of like-minded supporters. In conclusion, now, this is morphed a little different than I originally planned, but we have blank pieces of paper. Use your phones. I encourage every one of you to capitalize on tonight. We are full, a room full, or an auditorium full of like-minded people, like-minded supporters. Don't hesitate to strike a conversation with people in this room. Exchange contact information, and follow through on that contact information. Build relationships. Build your support. Build your core support. If you can build your core support, and as a party, I build. My team and I, we build our core support being within the riding, and Maxime builds his core support being the country. We will win the next election, and Maxime will be our next Prime Minister. Thank you. Thank you.